Hey, thank you for tuning in to the How to Play Glamour video. Why don't we just dive in and get started on learning how to play the game. First thing is we have two types of cards in this game. We have court cards up here. These are the cards that you use to determine who wins the game. And down here, these type of cards with this back are called the fairy cards. These are your action cards, which you will be playing to gain court cards. But first of all, let's talk about how to win this game. Down here, you can see we have the summer card, the spring card, the fall card, and the winter card. The first player to collect all four of these types of cards is going to win the game. Now, if two players finish at the same time or during the same round, the player with the most amount of tiebreaker points will win the game. Tiebreaker points are listed in the upper right corner of the card. For example, this card is worth 8 points. Now, if two players are tied for the same amount of points, the player that is the king during that round will determine who is the winner. Let's talk about how to set up the deck. All right, we're going to set up this game for a 4-player game. You can tell which cards to use based on the number of fairies at the very bottom of the court card. For example, this court card has 4 fairies at the very bottom. So that means that we're going to use this in a 4-player game. So let's see, we're going to take this and put it into the fairy deck. These ones too all have 4 players, 4 players, 4 players. And let's look over here at these ones. Well, this one has 3, so we're going to use that. This one has 2, so we're going to use that one. And this one has 2, so we're going to use that one. So that gives us a deck total of 16 cards right now. But we're going to add some more cards into it. These are meddler cards. Meddler cards do things that get in your way during the game. For example, this card, if you get it, you have to give one of your court cards to another player. Other cards make you lose bidding points and also give you negative tiebreaker points at the end of the game. There's a lot of different types of them, and you can read them over on your own. Put these cards into the deck. Every game, you're going to have a number of meddlers equal to the number of players. So that means this game is going to have 4 meddlers. So let's shuffle this deck up, like so, and put 4 meddler cards into the court deck. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now these extra cards, you're not going to need those, so go ahead and put those back in the box. Alright, and then we have noble cards. Noble cards are pretty much the opposite of meddler cards. Nobles do things like give you bonuses and give you bonus tiebreaker points. Noble cards do not get you closer to beating the game, but can help you win the game faster. Every game, we're going to add 1 noble card per player. So in this game, we have 4 players. So we'll shuffle these up, and then we'll add 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and the rest of these cards we can return to the box. Now, for example, I will be king this first round, so we'll put that card there. Then we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the court deck like so. And then we're going to deal 1 card to every player until there are no cards left in the court deck. So here we go. Oh, and just as a note, you always deal to the king first. But here we go. We're going to just do this very quickly and deal to all. Okay. So now, I can look at my cards here. These are the cards that I have in my hand. And on the king's turn, he is going to put out, he or she is going to put out 1 card that is face up. So I'm going to take this card, I'm going to put it out here. It's going to go face down there, and then I'm going to flip it back over. This card is always face up, so everybody can see it. And then they're going to take one card and put it face down, like so. The rest of these court cards will be returned to the court deck up here, like so. Oops. There we go. All right, and then I'm not even going to look. The other players will all place their cards in the correct spots. Ooh, but I should flip these cards. Okay, so the next step is every player bids 1 dram per card on the table. Let's see, I will just, for example, put, I kind of want this card, and I know I want this card, so I'm going to put 1 there, and 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So they give me 1 dram on Puck, and 4 dram on this secret card that nobody else knows about. And now the rest of the players will bid. Okay, now that everybody has bid, we can start to see how the fairy cards work. These are the fairy cards, and I'll go through them slowly one at a time here. The first one we have is our merchant. Now the merchant tells us we can move 2 dram. When a card says you can move 2 dram, you can move any 2 dram. For example, I can move my own, I can move this one here, and then move this one over here. Or I can move 2 of my, I can move 2 of these ones. For example, go like 1, 2. It can be any dram to any card. That's how you move 2 dram. After that we have the priest. The priest says to convert 1 dram. To convert 1 dram, you choose one player's dram, you return it to their pile, and you bid one of yours onto that card. So you basically turn their dram into yours. After the priest, we have the pirate. The pirate says to remove 2 dram. So when you remove 2 dram, you just go to some player's dram, take 2 of it, go like 1 and 2, and return 2 dram to any players you want. We also have the noble. The noble says to bid 3 dram. Now, with the noble, you can only bid your own dram. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, like that. Or if I wanted to, I could go 1, 2, 3. Put all 3 in the same place. Again, dram can go anywhere and come from anywhere. All right, and the next card we have is our inspector. The inspector says to look at 1 court card and bid 1 dram. So, with the inspector, you can take 1 court card, put it into your hand, go ahead and have a look at it. So now I know what this card is. After you look at it, you return the card to the table, and then you can bid 1 more dram anywhere you want to. It does not have to be on the card that you looked at. All right, and now there are 2 more cards that I saved for the last because these ones are kind of special. We have the illusionist. You must lie if you have the illusionist. All right, so let's say so I've got the illusionist, and I'm gonna play the illusionist, and when I play the illusionist, I'm going to say it's a noble. Now, if nobody on the table calls me a liar, I play a noble like normal. I bid 1, 2, 3. But if somebody on the table calls me a liar, I show my illusionist, and then I do what the card says. The card says to show 2 court cards and then secretly put them back. So what I would do is I would show, say, this card and this card, and then I would take them both into my hand, shuffle them around a little bit in my hand so other players don't know which card's which, flip them over, and then secretly put them back wherever I want to. This time I put them back in the same places, but I could also switch places if I wanted to. Alright, that's how the illusionist works. The second card that you must lie about is a layabout. So let's put the layabout into my hand, alright? So let's see. So I'm going to play a layabout, and I have to lie about it. I'm going to say that this layabout is a merchant. And then, if nobody calls me a liar, I can move 2. I can go 1, 2. I can move 2 chips, 2 dram chips. But if somebody calls me a liar, let's say the red player calls me a liar, I have to show my card, and it says accuser bids 2 dram. So the red player was the accuser. They accused me of lying. They now get to bid 2 dram like so. 1, 2, anywhere they want to. And I do not get the action that I lied about. So those chips go back there. So let's say I've got this inspector in my hand. But I need to bid more than 1 dram. I need to bid 3 dram. Well, what I can do is I can claim this inspector as a noble. And if I claim this inspector as a noble and nobody calls me a liar, or nobody accuses me of being a liar, I can bid 3 dram. 1, 2, 3. Like so. But now, if I play this inspector, and let's say again the red player calls me a liar, accuses me of lying, I have to show my card. I indeed was lying. I lose my action this turn, and the red player can bid 1 dram anywhere they want to. Well, they'll bid it right there. Okay, now let's say that I really do have a noble in my hand, and I put my noble out here, and once again, the red player calls me a liar. Now this time, I'm going to flip my card. I'm going to show the red player that I do indeed have a noble, and I was falsely accused. In this case, I get to bid 3 dram because of the noble. 1, 2, 3. I get to take the action of the card as normal, and I get to convert one of the other player's drams, one of the accuser's dram. So I return that one, and I bid another one here. Okay? Now, if a player has 0 dram on the table, let's say that the red player has no dram out here on this table, they cannot accuse me of lying. You have to have dram on the table. You have to have something to lose in order to accuse a player of lying. Okay, so I've rearranged the table a bit to show you how the end of a round might look like. If you look down here, you see that each player has played their 3 fairy cards. No players have any more cards in their hand. Now we determine who wins what cards. Since I am the king, I determine who wins what cards in cases of ties. And we'll start with my card that I laid out first. Let's see. The spring card, I have 5 chips on this. The green player has 5 chips on this. Therefore, I win this card and put it into my court cards. And am 1 step closer to winning. This card right here is a tie between the green player and the red player. Now, I as the king am the green player. I want to give this card to myself. But I have to decide who wins this card before the card is flipped over. Now, I know from looking at it with my inspector that this was a meddler card. So, I am going to give it to the red player. And there it is, the meddler card. Alright. Next we have, the blue player has 3 cards on this one. We know, and so therefore the blue player wins this card. The green player has 2 on this one, therefore I win this card. And the purple player has 3 chips on this one, therefore they win this card. Alright, that is how you determine who wins the cards. But let's say, for example, that the blue player had 3 chips on this one and had won this summer card. They would take this summer card, but now the problem is they have 2 summer cards, which can't happen. A player cannot have 2 of the same seasonal card. You can have 2 meddler cards, you can have 3 noble cards, but you cannot have 2 summer cards or 2 winter cards. So this player needs to get rid of one of these cards. They have an 8-point card and a 5-point card. So of course, this player is going to get rid of the 5-point card and return it to the court deck. Alright, and that is the end of round number 1. Rounds continue to be played like this until one player has collected a spring, summer, fall, and winter court card, at which point the game is over and that player wins. Alright, thank you for watching this video.